Okay, so good morning. Actually, it's afternoon now. So, good afternoon. So, this is a presentation on actually a customer support crime. So, as we know, there are like different kinds of cyber crimes available, and in fact, as days progress, as technologies progress, the types and like the modus operandi of crimes keep on evolving. So like common frauds which we are aware of are like email fraud, social media crimes, then ransomware, then net banking or ATM frauds, then a Paytm KYC fraud is also rampant in India. There's an OLX fraud, then some fake government website frauds, fake job fraud. So this is one sort of that kind of a customer support crime, so to say. And I've titled it Hello, this is Microsoft because the criminals actually present themselves to be Microsoft employees or customer support teams. So how it begins. So how is this crime actually carried out and what is the nature of this? So I have a lot of friends, tech savvy friends. So meet Akshar. Okay, he's now settled in the US. He lives in Ohio, and he's pursuing a master's degree there. And he's almost a computer wizard, and he likes listening to songs and hunting stuff on the internet. So one fine Saturday morning, Akshar sits down at his computer and actually he tries to find up podcasts to listen to. So while browsing, he accidentally visited a website like this. So as you can see, it says hard drive safety delete in starting in 5. Contact the Windows support to and a number, so and so number, and it says free call and not surcharge. So and the screen which you see in the background, it kind of is animated, so it keeps rolling. So the victim actually thinks that his hard drive is actually being deleted. So what we can observe is basically that like whoever created this website, they are misrepresenting Windows, which is actually a trademarked product of Microsoft. The four squared logo is a trademark again, which is a registered asset of Microsoft. The background is a scrolling animation of a supposed PowerShell prompt. And this actually tricks the user into thinking that his or her computer is getting hacked and files are being deleted. And as is obvious, there are some grammatical errors, which is apparently common on these scammy websites. So Akshar is smart. Okay, he called up his friend Jignesh, who is a hobbyist digital investigator, and who advised him that okay, this website is actually a fraud. So don't do anything; it might actually harm your system. So that they got together and they determined to put an end to the scammers. Okay, so they decided to hatch a plan to trick them into exposing himself, to trick the scammer. Okay, so scamming and investigating, this is the part like what they did. So contrary to a conventional digital forensic case, this story actually involves making a criminal scammer expose himself. So it was necessary to pretend to be a not so technical person who needed the service, the Windows upgradation service or whatever. So in this case, they make himself or Akshar makes himself an elderly lady. So due to this, both the scamming and the hobby investigating take place parallelly. So Akshar actually got hold of a voice changing software. I've like signified that using this, and which modified his real voice to that of an old lady's, and while transmitting it to Edward, right? So when he actually called up that number, somebody called Edward picked up and he made the old lady like go through the steps. And while like Akshar in the guise of an old lady kept the criminal occupied, Jignesh actually reverse accessed the computer of the hacker. Now the methodology is like how did he reverse access? That is, I'll not tell about that right now. There are some like probable situations which I have put in the end to gain access. So using that, he actually gained access to the criminal's screen. So this is one of the screens on the scammer's PC. So an Excel file was open having the details of all the money which he had actually taken from all the previous people he had scammed. Okay, so this is sort of the modus operandi which the criminal actually does. So the scammer asks the old lady to do the following. So he makes her run HH space H from run. And this actually opens the HTML help page, which can't connect because it's not a valid HTML page. And then he asks her to click on the yellow question mark. As you can see on the top, there's a yellow question mark. So he asks her to click on that. And while he kept the lady occupied, the scammer actually logged into a Gmail account on his PC, which was captured by Jignesh. So as you can see, I've like blurred out a bit of his email, but it starts with saying Arjun. So he's not actually Edward, he is somebody called Arjun in real life. So the scammer then instructs the lady to jump to URL fastsupport.com. Okay. And since this is just a simplified web browser, it actually connects to the website, and he then needs to give her a key so that he can actually remote access to the lady's computer. And that leads to go to assist, and she is made to download that, and she has to approve the session. And this is how the scammer gains full remote access to the lady's PC while they are on a call. Okay. And now the scammer then opens event viewer. You like it is available on Windows, and even like you can check on your PCs also. And he shows her the administrative events panel, and where you can see like you can see a lot of warnings and errors, which is perfectly normal in any case. But he actually lies that these are bugs and scam connections, whereas these are like perfectly legit debug warnings or errors on Windows, which the OS itself handles, right? So the scammer also calls these spyware or malware, and this is how the computer security got compromised. And he says all this just to trick the lady. So, and as an additional fear factor, he opens netstat and he shows the number of TCP connections. And he says that like as you can see, the current connections is equal to 49. The scammer actually says that these are the number of people who are connected to the PC maliciously. Okay, but it is simply the current number of connections on Windows, that is the various ports which are open on localhost. And he, as an additional fear factor, he also opens msconfig and he shows several stopped services by Microsoft. So you can go to services and actually like sort it using the status. So all the stopped come together, and he tells the lady that all the services by Microsoft are stopped, and this is why she got the virus on that web page, which is complete nonsense, but this is kind of how he operates. And he then opens the site remotely from his PC on the lady's PC, on the lady's computer. And this is livemicrosoftsupport.com. And I checked it yesterday and it is still up in a sense, although the version is kind of updated. So he then plans to sell her a package, which is like a 1-year plan package, which you can see is about like $300. There's a 2-year plan of $500. And he says that this will do a total cleanup of the computer using advanced Microsoft cleanup tools, and total cleanup of IP address and IP masking, which is also complete bullcrap. He then makes her visit cudesk.com, which is the actual like registered company, so to say, under which these scammers operate, and where there is a $499 plan for which she has to pay. Now, as you recall, the old lady is actually Akshara in disguise. So he puts in bogus card details. And then after that, Edward hangs up the call, promising to call later once the technicians have started working on a PC. And of course, since the card details were bogus, the payment gets declined. So now that connection is cut off, and now Jignesh has the opportunity to show his capabilities to try and extract information from Edward's PC using his reverse access connection. Okay, so so Jignesh discovered the details of other scammers who were also involved. So having accessed the PCs of other people in the same tech support company, so to say, so Jignesh was able to pinpoint the approximate locations of 3 people involved. And since these locations are actually spread apart, as you can see, like in Dehradun, Delhi and Kanpur. So he inferred that they actually work from home rather than in one single office. And the customer care number, which was put on the website, so that is actually routed to one of these cities, to one of these people. So this was a file on the scammer's computer, which actually had an image of his society. And as you can see, the metadata of the file, it was taken on an iPhone SE of 2nd generation. And this actually still had the geolocation coordinates, which is how Jignesh was able to pinpoint the location of his like current location or like his recent location. And some other evidence which were obtained from the laptop is like a register of every phone call ever received by Arjun or Edward, including other spreadsheets. Again, evidence was an Aadhaar card picture obtained from his laptop, audio recordings of the victim getting scammed using reverse connection that was already being done by Jignesh, and also another photograph was obtained, which is like 90% his photograph only. So Jignesh actually emailed the details of the scammer to the Dehradun police and with whatever information he could gather from the criminal's computer. And from the past experiences, he knew that the cyber police always actually asks for the details of the person who had been scammed, so they can get in contact with those people. And so he provided those as well. So as you can see, he's provided some of the names and email addresses and amounts that like how much had they lost in this scam. So Jignesh also decided to contact all of the people who had been scammed. Like he got in touch with them directly, and so they could get like they could contact their bank or their credit card companies to charge back the payment, so that it would cost the scammers and like the transaction would be reversed. So actions taken. So as a result, what were the actions taken on these criminals? So sadly, Jignesh did not receive a reply back to his email from Dehradun police. However, 2 months later, CBI takes action. They search 6 firms over computer tech support fraud and they recover assets worth rupees 190 crores. And this is from October 16, 2020. And for obvious reasons, the exact CBI procedure is for such cases is not exactly known. But as far as I have gathered from like various articles, this is a probable scenario. So they come up with a plan of investigation of like analyzing the allegations received by the Department of Justice or Jignesh, so to say, and categorizing them into main and secondary. Again, a plan, the plan is actually made by the investigating officer along with the police superintendent, and they should contain the main allegations, the witnesses to be examined, the documents to be seized, any technical existence required, any expert opinions, searches to be conducted, and like in what sense, then Interpol references if they are required, and any CBI investigation if it is required outside the territory of India. The plan is not final and binding, and that is it is actually flexible and they can alter it at any point during the investigation. And the SP also needs to review the same whenever a progress report is made. And for supremely important cases, even the DIG has the power to review it. The next step is to proceed to the crime spot to try and collect evidence, which is what the CBI exactly did, as we can find out from the report. So evidence is found like the information on the victim, the modus operandi, the circumstantial evidence, physical evidence. So a plan of the scene is prepared and then the scene is actually photographed or videographed. And the videos are burnt into write-only storage. So if you're using a CD drive, it has to be write-only, so that like none of it can be modified in any way. Also, videography actually helps to understand the lifestyle of the accused. So if it is a mansion or if it is like a normal middle class home or the circumstances regarding a particular recovery. The third step is actually ascertaining the facts, like all the facts, circumstances. The officer should be familiar with all of these, including like he should including the cooperation of various heads and vigilance officers if required. The fourth step is the discovery and arrest of the suspect. So officers actually have the same power as the police officers in this case. The fifth step is collection of evidence related to commission of offense. So examining the people, recording their statements, also searching and seizure of places or documents. Also, there is one important condition in this. If there is any inducement, threat or promise made to any person from whom information is gathered, that evidence can actually be considered invalid for being admitted in court, and the officer's actions can actually lead to his dismissal from service. So wherever possible, the orders of the competent court is to be obtained for the custody and disposal of case property. Any seized documents are to be reviewed and necessary action taken, and all documents which are not required have to be returned. The sixth and final stage is like the formulation of expert opinion on guilt of accused. So once all the evidence is reviewed, officer has to make the decision if there is reasonable doubt against the accused to place before the magistrate. And like this involves things like charge sheet filing before the competent court. And for all international cases, the National Central Bureau, which is Interpol, may be requested through the Interpol wing of CBI and the competent authority of the country through the diplomatic channels for taking the necessary permission for the visit of the police officers to those countries. And finally, the reveal, like how was this story made? So the scam and the CBI report are like found in real life. These happened in real life, but they did not happen together. So I have like taken the data from 2 to 3 sources and like slightly tweaked them to form a continuous narrative. And so the scam itself was legit and the CBI report itself is legit. Also, Jignesh and Akshar are characters based on the roles of Jim Browning and Pierogi, who run the YouTube channels Tech Support Scams and Scammo Payback. And information about the scam is directly obtained from Jim Browning's YouTube channel. You can go and check out his YouTube channel. He actually takes down these tech support scammers, and he and 2 other YouTubers got together to shut down this scammer company in September 2020. And all the evidence which I've shown in this presentation is also taken from that same video. The article about the CBI is also is from real life, and it was published in The Week, which published this report in such a case. The modus operandi, which is described in this article, is exactly the same as in Browning's video, but it is unclear if the people involved are the same. It may be a different group, but the methodology was the same. Also, if you're still wondering how did the reverse connection work exactly? So Jim, of course, does not make this information public, otherwise it would stop working. Okay, so there are some known possibilities which are found on the internet. So scammers actually need to bypass the team viewer restrictions. So they actually use team viewer sometimes, and they sometimes allow the victim to view their computer first, which they then require to switch. But Jim, in fact, does not switch. And he keeps a connection like that only, and then he inconspicuously installs a rat. So that is a remote administration tool, or it is sometimes called a remote administration Trojan, using which he can actually remotely access anything on that hacker's computer. Also, Jim might keep a my passwords file on his desktop, which the scammer steals, thinking it is like a gold mine, so to say. But instead it was a RAT installation executable file or something like that, and he ends up installing it on his end. Jim has also mentioned using a keylogger in some of his videos, so like recording the keystrokes of the scammer or hacker. And in spite of all this, like all these possibilities, one of his ex-staff members on Reddit has actually claimed that all of the usual rumors about his tools are kind of false. Yes, he did use them once upon a time, but he keeps on like evolving and for like making it customized for his own purposes. So the methods are of course kept secret, otherwise they would stop working. Also, on the internet, I found one of these rat tools, that is the remote access Trojan or the remote access tool. It's called Ahamith Android Rat, and it is a rat that allows the hackers to control the Android phones of the victims. So here, as you can see, the rat client. So this is like a nice GUI for the rat. So it's actually a client on the scammer's PC, and it's actually not on the scammer's PC, more like the investigator's PC. And he's alerted whenever the victim has the payload open. So like as you can see, there's a Sony and a Samsung phone which has the payload installed on their devices. So like an APK file, so to say. And like he can actually gain remote access to these devices. Also, SMS list is visible. Then the hacker can actually send an SMS to a phone number. The files are visible. The camera can be remotely turned on or off without the victim realizing. Okay, so these were the sources from which I took the CBI investigation details. And thank you. That was my presentation.